Put yourself in position to win big on Kentucky Derby Day with the power of daily racing form. Visit shop.drf.com and get past performances, expert picks, betting strategies, clock reports, and more. Again, that's shop.drf.com. Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Friday, May the 5th, race number 11 at Churchill Downs. It's the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks. We're going 1.1 1/8 for 3-year-old fillies. $1.25 million is the purse. Before we take a look at the field, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF news and analysis. Here's the field for the Derby for the fillies. The Kentucky Oaks going 1.1 1/8. A full field in here, 14 in the body of the race, 3 also eligibles, 15 Tax, 16 Julia Shining, 17 Hoosier Filly. These horses will need scratch help. Wet Paint, the number 7, is the 5-2 morning line favorite. And why not, Mike? She swept all 3 preps for the Oaks at Oaklawn Park.
She's just been really, really good in all 4 dirt starts in her career, Dan. Undefeated on this surface. She has a really strong finishing kick. It's just going to be up to Flavien Prat to get her a clean run.
All about trip for Wet Paint. I agree 100% because she should get the pace she needs, according to our friends at Timeform US. Here's the Timeform US pace projector for the Oaks. Flying Connection, winner of the Sunland Park Oaks, expected to make the early lead. Note that red bar over her 10 Chicklet. It indicates a fast pace, and that could help the 7 Wet Paint, who has the LP flag. She has the fastest late Timeform US pace rating.
Yeah, Wet Paint's going to want something to run at here. And then she's going to need a clean trip into this race with 13 other horses surrounding her. I could certainly see this pace being fast, Dan. I didn't necessarily think it had to be, but it's certainly possible. It's a big field. They have a run to the first turn here, and these horses are going to be going for position.
Now, we don't have any pace data on our entrant from overseas, the number 1, Mimi Kakushi, a horse that was able to show some tactical speed and stay close in Dubai. Personally, I think this pace is going to be faster than anything she's ever seen, so she's likely to come from farther out of it, but she looked good, winning her last 3 races in Dubai, including the UAE Oaks, her most recent start, going 1 3/16. You see her wearing the cheek pieces. She's on the outside. She grinds it down. Nice to know distance isn't a problem.
Going to get the job done here. I actually felt like this pace was pretty solid early on, Dan, and she just sort of kept up with it. Of course, the horse that was on the pace with her is the horse who's going to be second here. And she is going to get the job done. Maybe the pace has something to do with it, Dan, but 1 3/16 and they go 2 minutes flat. That feels like a pretty slow race to me. She won her prior start too, the 1,000 Guineas. I mean, she was fine in that race, but I didn't feel like, she was super impressive winning. Nobody did anything behind her there. I'm just not sure how good she is.
For most of the prep season leading up to the Kentucky Oaks, we were saying, where's the fast race? Where's the fast race? Where's the fast race? Each prep would come back with buyers of 82, 83. Well, the number 2, the Alys Look, popped in 89 when she won the Silver Bullet Day, 2 starts back at the fairgrounds, showing good tactical speed. She missed her subsequent start. They gave her a little bit of time in between races and ran her in the Fairground Oaks. And I wonder if the Fairgrounds Oaks was being used as a prep, which it used to, for the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, that's certainly possible, Dan. She also didn't get a particularly good trip in that race. I mean, it's not like she was close at the end, but man, she was widest all the way up the backstretch. That pace was not that fast. She tried to make a run around that final turn, but she was still wide. I thought she stayed on pretty well there to be a clear third in that race. She was obviously more impressive 2 starts back. They put her right up close, and I really liked the way that she dug in to win that race over a heavily favored Chop Chop. There's a lot of potential here, and she has really good positional speed. She could really fall into a trip here from close 2.
We know she's fast enough to win this race. She has 4 recent workouts at Churchill Downs for the powerhouse Brad Cox stable. Speaking of powerhouse trainers, the number 3 Gambling Girl is conditioned by Todd Pletcher, and this New York bred has done some good work going 1 1/8 in the past. Second in the sloppy track Demoiselle is a 2-year-old. Second last time out in the Grade 3 Gazelle, a race in where she tried to rally from last. There wasn't a lot of pace in that race. She was grinding along to finish second. She ran okay. She's going to get a better pace setup here. It's whether she's good enough.
Yeah, she seems like one of the horses who could really benefit, though, if this pace is fast. So we'll see if it sets up that way. I mean, ultimately, I feel like she's basically run well in every one of her starts, and you don't feel like distance is any issue for her, Dan. I mean, ultimately, I just don't think she's that good, but she could get the right trip here and make some noise at a price.
Number 4, Southlawn, looks like she's developing at just the right time for trainer Norm Cassie, one of the now horses in this division. 2 starts this year. She won both of them very impressively at the fairgrounds, including the Fairgrounds Oaks last time, where she beat 3 of these. And it was a race where she had to do some running in the stretch.
I like the way that she finished in that race. They sort of kept her over behind horses for a long way there, sort of altered her out into the clear once that field was into the stretch. And I like the way that she finished it off. That was a good performance. I thought she was really impressive when she won that allowance race 2 back, an early move up the inside, up the backstretch, and just kept on going. To me, she's super dangerous in this race.
The number 5, Wonder Wheel, was last year's 2-year-old filly champion. She won 2 Grade 1 stakes races at a mile and a 16th, including the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, a race in which she received a beautiful trip, race flow, and ride from Tyler Gaffalione. Now, the question has to be asked, has she progressed from 2 to 3? You can say that both of her starts this year have been a little bit disappointing. Joel Rosario takes over for the first time on the Mark Cassie trainee.
Yeah, I would say it's all about price for Wonder Wheel in this race, Dan. I think it's pretty clear that she's good enough to win if things go her way in this race. I kind of felt like she was a little dressed up in both of the Grade 1 wins last year because I just think she had all the best of it in the Alcibiades and the Breeders' Cup as far as race flow went. But she still ran fine in those races. Maybe she needed the Suncoast off the layoff. I didn't think she had a big excuse that day. She was only second best. She didn't get a great trip or ride last time. They certainly could have been forward in there. They didn't go. She got sort of behind horses and shuffled back in that race and then just didn't really kick that hard. I'm not surprised there's a rider change here. I think that she could win this race. I wouldn't take any kind of short price on her.
The number 6 is Botanical. Coming into the Kentucky Oaks is one of the faster fillies in the field. She earned a 90 Beyer speed figure last time out in the Bourbonnette Oaks, but that race was over an all-weather surface, and it was a race in which she had everything her own way on the lead. She has never raced on dirt. She's bred for it. She's certainly well-connected, trained by Brad Cox, and she doesn't need the lead. She has the tactical speed to sit and finish. I think she has some promise.
Yeah, I won't dispute any of those things, Dan. She looked good winning 2 back without the lead. That pace was pretty solid, and she just sat off it. Last time, I mean, she couldn't have had it easier in the Bourbonnette Oaks. They just conceded to her, and she walked on the front end. So, to me, that's the kind of stuff that I don't really like to see when they're coming into a race like this, where they're going a little bit longer, they're switching surfaces, and she's going to be one of the favorites in this race. She's 4-1 on the line. I'm not betting her. I won't be surprised when she runs well.
Here's the morning line favorite, the 7, Wet Paint. She's won her last 3 races for Godolphin and Brad Cox. Going into this race, the fantasy, the question was, could she handle a fast track? All of her prior dirt races had come on wet going, and would she run a fast race? Yes. Yes, she handles the fast track. She runs an 89 Beyer. She runs away from this group late.
Yeah, this is this final eighth of a mile here. This is just like all of her prior 3 dirt starts, Dad. She just really gets, it seems like she gets stronger as these races go on. She really finishes, and she did it that day in the fantasy on the fast dirt track for the first time. Big, wide move all the way around the final turn, just passing horses to get into contention. And then she just keeps going through the stretch. I think she's way the horse to beat, but she needs a trip.
New York-based trainer Ray Handel will send out the 8, Promise Her America, a filly that has improved, getting more distance. She scored the Grade 3 Gazelle last time out, her first time around 2 turns at a mile and an eighth. You're going to see Gambling Girl in this race on the far outside attempt to rally from out of it. Promise Her America utilized her strong tactical ability to get up close to a pretty moderate pace, 14 and change for 3/4, but she always found a little bit more in the stretch, especially since Gambling Girl's got the momentum here.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. She got a good trip in this race, but she's finding at the end of this race, and she's actually denying Gambling Girl to the wire of that race. That was a solid performance. I don't think, I don't love the Gazelle as a race overall, but I won't take away from what Promise Her America did in there. She was the longest shot on the board, but she didn't really look like it when that field crossed the wire. She also actually ran really well when she broke her maiden 2 starts back, too, the first time they went the mile with her.
The number 9 might be coming into this race a little bit under the radar. Her name is And Tell Me No Lies, and she's shipping in from Southern California for the high percentage Peter Miller barn. She was a multiple graded stakes winner in Southern California last year, despite not running really any fast races. She has 2 prep races under her belt, and you can make the argument, Mike, that the filly she was facing, Feza, in both of those races, is the best 3-year-old filly in the crop, and because she's trained by Bob Baffert, she's not running in the Oaks.
Yeah, that's true. Faze is undefeated 5 for 5, 4 graded stakes wins, but she's not allowed to run in this race for some reason. And she's another one too, Dan. She hadn't really run any fast races, but the Santa Anita Oaks came back pretty fast. 89 Bayard and Tell Me No Lies ran fine in that race. She just, in her last 2 starts, was unable to make up stretch ground on Feza, but maybe she can make up stretch ground on these horses. She's got the right running style for this race.
And I think she's going to get a faster pace than what she's seen in her last few. Keep an eye on her at 15-1 on the morning line. The 10 is Flying Connection in from Sunland Park, where she utilized her big early speed to blitz him in the Sunland Park Oaks. This is her 3rd win from her last 4 starts. She just really gave this field no chances. She went right to the front. She draws away. She earned a respectable buyer. It's fair to question the company she's facing. Now she's going to have to do it going 1 1/8 miles.
Yeah, there are things working against her here. She's going to have to do it probably on a faster pace this time. This was a race where she didn't even go favorite in here, Dan, because Baffert had shipped a horse in who actually didn't even look that good on paper. But that horse went to the lead with Flying Connection. Flying Connection put that horse away easily and won, pretty handily at the end. Her last 2 races are good. I think she has to run better than that against this field.
Mike, you scored last time out with the 11 Defining Purpose at a big price in the Grade 1 Alcibiades. She was entering that race after 2 wet track performances against wet paint. Maybe she didn't care for the wet track. She's won her last 2 stakes races on fast dirt. Here's the Ashland. Now, she got a very good trip sitting up close to the pace, but she traveled like a winner every step on the backstretch, and she's very game to win over Punch Bowl, a horse that has shown some ability in her short career, and Julia Shining, who is rock solid.
Yeah, and that's Wonder Wheel, the 2 there, and those sort of maroon silks, who's fading to the back of the pack there. More than anything else, and this filly's fine. As you mentioned, her last 2 starts on fast dirt are both really good performances. But more than anything else in the Ashland, she got the right ride, and some of the other horses didn't in that race. And I think it gave her a little bit of an advantage. I think she can improve again, and I really like her running style because she can be forward, but she doesn't need the lead. But I do feel like she's probably going to have to improve again if she's going to win this race.
The number 12, Dorth Vader, is no stranger to pulling off upsets. She did so 2 starts back in the graded Devona Dale, going a 1-turn mile. She was 46-1 that day. She stayed up close to a legitimate pace, and she was much the best. They tried her 2 turns in the Gulfstream Park Oaks last time out. She kind of moved into the teeth of the pace and then tired. She does have good tactical speed. I'm a little concerned about the extra ground.
I am too. She was, I guess, in her defense in the most recent start, Dan, where she got a little tired. She was sort of wide for pretty much the entire race there. She couldn't get over on the first turn, so they just kept her on the outside the entire way, and she got tired at the end. She ran fine. She's another one who I don't feel like she's necessarily in over her head here, but I think she's going to need to catch some breaks if she's going to be there at the end.
Affirmative Lady was second in the Demoiselle last year, going 1 1/8 miles, and she's picked up her game with the addition of blinkers for trainer Graham Motion. Here she is winning the Gulfstream Park Oaks last time out. We see her alter course to the outside and upper stretch, and then she utilizes her strong stamina to kick down the leaders. She's in very good form right now. Now she's got to start running some faster races. The Gulfstream Park Oaks represented a career best buyer, and it was only an 81.
Yeah, I like that she's sort of finding her way now for Graham Motion, but she's coming off of 2 perfect trip wins at Gulfstream Park, and the races, neither one of them came back fast. Obviously, these connections really liked her, Dan. They ran her in the Demoiselle and the Busanda last year, 9 furlongs as a maiden, and she didn't run poorly in either of those races. But right now, it seems like she's not fast enough to win here, so she's going to have to find a way to improve.
Tough post for the 14 Pretty Mischievous, who won a couple of stakes races, including the Grade 2 Rachel Alexandra during the fairgrounds meet over the winter. In the Rachel Alexandra, she got right up close to the pace. She made the lead in the stretch. Maybe she was waiting on some horses a bit, but she kept on going and won. And I felt the same way last time out in the Fairgrounds Oaks. I thought all in all, she got a very good trip. She made the first run into the pace to make the lead, and then it looked like she started waiting a little bit on horses, and she was run down in the stretch. I think blinkers on is just what the doctor ordered for Brendan Walsh. I'm just not sure what kind of trip she works from out here.
Yeah, it's not a great post for her, but she is one of the horses in here who has a top race that will give her a real chance if she can run it. Dan, I liked her win too bad. I didn't like her performance in the Fairgrounds Oaks last time, but maybe there is some kind of an excuse for it, and she can rebound here. We'll see what kind of trip she gets. I'm just concerned about distance with her. I don't necessarily love her races going longer. She's got a lot of sprint in her pedigree, and I wonder if 9 furlongs really helps her.
Now, she has won at Churchill Downs in the past. Of the 3 horses on the also eligible list, Mike, which one would you be leaning toward? I think a lot of folks would be looking at the 16 Julia Shining, considering pedigree, considering connections. I'm more of a fan of the plucky 15 Taxed at a big price. If she sneaks in, maybe she could hit the board with a late kick.
I know you've always liked Tax, and you've done pretty well with her too. I think she's, if nothing else, she's pretty underrated and keeps outrunning her odds. I guess if I had to take one, I would take Julia Shining. She just doesn't feel like she'd be a good price to me. So I'll probably, if any of them get in, I'll probably avoid them.
And the 17 Hoosier filly did some very good things at Churchill Downs. She went 3 for 3 there as a 2-year-old, hasn't backed up that form at the fairgrounds this year. Let's take a look at our top selections for the Kentucky Oaks. Mike, we're both going with horses based at the fairgrounds. The Alys look, nice post position. I think they used the last race as a prep. The trip wasn't the best. I like her price potential in this spot.
I do too. And I just think she can get a better trip this time than she got in the Fairgrounds Oaks last time off a little bit of a layoff. She should be a fair price. I'll try her on top in this race. I'm really not against Wet Paint at a short price. Then I like all of her dirt races.
The only knock on Wet Paint could be the potential short price in here, and that's really, to me, one of the main knocks on the 6 Botanical, a horse that comes into the race with great pedigree and great form, but she's going to get bet. Pretty Mischievous has a couple of races on her page. Mike mentioned all of the negatives, not even mentioning the outside post, which is a negative. Could be distance, but I think the blinkers are going to move her forward. She's got to be a good price breaking from out there. This looks like a wide open edition of the Kentucky Oaks. Mike's going 2-7-4-3. I'm going 14-6-7-4. Best of luck.